I remember years ago there was a colleague of mine that he'd boxed himself into retiring by a certain age. He kept telling everybody, by this age I'm retiring. And so that was his metric, I guess. And I can remember spending the last day with him and then eventually, dropping him home. And then the enormity of his decision hit him and he wasn't ready. Welcome everybody. I'm Craig Batchelor and this is Agent Stage, a podcast about people navigating their retirement pathway. And my guest today is Peter McCartney from Spranklin McCartney Lawyers, the Managing Director. Welcome, Peter. How are you?
Thanks, Craig. Good. Yourself?
Excellent. I'm very well, thank you. So could you describe for me your background in terms of study, career? How would you describe that in a few words?
So I studied a couple of degrees. I went through high school, got to the end of that, and really wasn't sure what to do. My father was an accountant at the time, and so he was pushing me in that direction, but I wasn't set on that path. So I decided to do the 2 degrees, accounting and law. Gravitated towards law.
Yep.
Completed that and then started working in a firm as soon as I finished.
Okay. I did, when you sent through the information on your bio, I did sort of look at that and think, oh, he's had a bet to each way here.
That's it. That's it, definitely.
So you firmed on which one it was going to be as you started going through your studies?
Probably within about 6 months. I felt that the law was much more challenging, I suppose. The accounting side, I like the procedural element of it, but not quite as, I suppose, interpretive in terms of the work. So I could see myself moving towards law quite early on. But that being said, loved doing accounting in terms of the broad range of skills it's given me and the ability to deal with complex legal matters that have accounting elements to them.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So in terms of your career / life, at what stage did the retirement pathway appear on the horizon for you? Was it very far into your career, or?
It was probably when I took over, so set up Spranklin McCartney Lawyers. So it was an existing business, Spranklin Solicitors. So in 2008, and I went to the Commonwealth Bank next door to the office at the time and hit them up for some money to run the business initially. They amazingly gave me some unsecured credit, and I was quite excited about that. But at the same time, they were in a phase of sort of upselling their services, and so they sat me down and said, do you want to see what your super's going to look like by the time you retire? And so they gave me some projections based on my then wage, which was quite miserable as an articled law clerk, come solicitor. And that was when it first sort of hit me that this is something that's down the track.
Yeah. So in terms of the impetus to give more consideration to that, it was you looking to take over the business pretty much. Was that around that time? Or?
Yeah, it was around that time, but it's only probably in the last few years that it's become more of a focus than it was. I mean, as much as I had that initial chat and looked at some projections, I didn't really know what they meant in terms of an actual future. And it's only in the last few years that I've paid a bit more attention to certainly what's on the news and the media about all these random figures, how much you need in retirement, and that is what I need to start looking towards.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to say to people that I worked with that whenever we were talking about retirement, I'd always say to them, well, I could retire tomorrow. And they'd go, oh, really? Gee, you've done really well. And I'd say yes, but I will have to die by the time I'm about 76. But so I'm just curious to know from your perspective, where do you see, like if you're on that retirement pathway, where do you think you might be in relation to that pathway today?
Well, from a purely number of years perspective, probably about halfway. I'm 45, so I figure I've been a solicitor for 20 years. So probably about halfway through that number of years process. But in terms of how I feel about the journey, probably a quarter of the way through, getting to where I'd hopefully like to get.
Yeah. I'm curious on whether there's been any experiences that that may have come across, you may have come across, that have got you thinking about retirement. I remember years ago there was a colleague of mine that had he'd boxed himself into retiring by a certain age. He kept telling everybody, by this age I'm retiring. And so that was his metric, I guess. And I can remember spending the last day with him, and then eventually, dropping him home, and then the enormity of his decision hit him, and he wasn't ready. He actually wasn't ready, and so he ended up driving cabs for about the next 8 or 9 years until he actually was ready for retirement. But it really struck me, and it was an experience I had that has been with me ever since, to not be in that situation. Have you come across any experiences like that or similar that you've gone, oh, okay, well, I want to do that, or I don't want to do that? Have you had any experiences that you've observed?
I've probably got a little bit more perspective than some people, just in terms of what I do for work, obviously. I deal with a lot of people doing up their estate planning documents. I deal with a lot of deceased estates as well, so I get to see both ends of that spectrum. Often when I'm doing estate planning with people and they're setting up their wills and looking at their future, some of them will be in that retirement phase, either leading up to it or post-retirement. And I find it very interesting to see the massive range of positions people are in, but also that it doesn't seem to be specifically linked to how much money they've got as to where they are on that journey and the decision they've made, especially the ones that are retiring, because it's almost separate from their finances, as far as they see it, for a lot of people.
And have you found that they've been ready for retirement, or because you're limited as to what information and how you can help, and you may have come across some of your clients where you might be thinking, wow, there's so many other aspects of this that they haven't given any consideration to. But have you had some of that? Or
I certainly think that a common theme that comes up is not knowing what to do with that next phase of life. So they may be financially set up, ready to go, but they just don't want to wind down. I suppose I'm lucky that being in a occupation that isn't restricted by, I suppose, physical ability. I could keep working a long way past, I suppose, the official retirement age. Whereas I appreciate that a lot of physical sort of labouring jobs and things, probably the body goes before the mind. So that concern about, well, what do you do for the 20 or 30 years in retirement isn't, I suppose, as much of a concern for me.
Yeah. And I suppose the lived experiences that you're having through work, do you think that they're preparing you in a way for when you get further down that track, whether it be emotionally or practically?
Yeah, they are a little bit. My trajectory changed 3 years ago. Sorry, my daughter came along. So being in my 40s then, I had a plan towards retirement. And in fact, my financial planner had spoken to me about, well, when do you want to retire? Set a number, just an arbitrary number. That's what we'll aim towards. But now realizing that my daughter's going to be 18 when I'm 60, means that that path's probably changed a little bit. School fees and many other expenses that come along with children are probably going to change that.
Yes, I understand how that works. So what do you think then will be your metrics? So is it age? Is it a dollar figure? Is it getting your business to a level where you're not required as much, or what sort of metrics do you think may help you arrive at when that transition date happens?
I honestly don't really know. Part of it would probably come down to some sort of financial matrix, but even then, from everything I've looked at, it's so arbitrary.
Yeah.
One person's idea of what you need in retirement is completely different from another's. There seems to be this common theme that it should be based on how many overseas holidays you need, for example. But for some people, that's of absolutely no interest.
Yes.
And other people have expensive hobbies they want to maintain.
Yep. Well, I see that you have a hobby in caravanning.
Yes.
Do you see that being one of those things? The grey nomad type thing. Is that you in the future?
I'd love to give that a go, and I certainly don't want to be a retiree that's physically unable to pursue that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that probably means that if not full retirement, at least some sort of winding back. Not too late in life, so that I can still enjoy those sort of activities and not feel restrained.
This podcast has been sponsored by Arditi. Arditi provide business coaching services, mentoring and strategy development. We focus particularly on small to medium-sized businesses and executives that might be struggling with the politics of business. We can help, we can provide some challenging questions that might assist you and help you find the answers that you need to attain growth for your business or individual growth. For more information, jump onto our website, arditi.com.au, and reach out. We'll be happy to help. Yeah, it's interesting that that when you look at those type of things, that we were on holidays. My wife and I were on holidays a couple of years ago, in going through Italy at that stage, and we walked past this bus load of aged tourists and really quite old. And they were struggling to get off the bus, and they had knees bandaged, and they had walking sticks, and they had all sorts of things. But none of them looked particularly happy. And we walked further on, and I sort of said to my wife, that's not going to be us. We'll get our travel out while we can, and that will be it. So with retirement in mind, albeit off in the future, are there any decisions that you feel that you're making currently that at least have an eye to that for the future, whether that be how you position the business or what you do with your finances? Are there things that you're doing currently?
Yeah, certainly. And it's been something probably for the last at least 5 years that I've been more conscious about having a savings plan in place. So actually putting aside funds rather than just living week to week like a lot of people do, and it's difficult when you've got commitments, expenses, mortgages, but I think that something changed, and I realized, well, you're not going to be earning money forever, and you don't want. Both of my parents are on pensions, government pensions. Not that they're of a generation where they're not looking to splurge or go on multiple overseas holidays or do anything fancy, but I've certainly seen how that has restricted their ability in retirement to do things.
Yeah, interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and he had just relinquished his business. So he hadn't actually sold it, but he'd sold all the stock and equipment and the land, and it was in regional Victoria, and he said, so now I'm trying to work out what my identity is, because when I sold all of that, so too went the identity. And he took over a business from his father that was very different, and his father before him, and so the business was 100 years in existence. So it was significant. But now he's trying to work out what his identity is. How do you think that when you eventually get to that point, how will that change for you? How do you think you'll address that? Because
I think it'll be a struggle. Yeah, I really do think it'll be a struggle. Even now, I mean, as I said, I've got a young daughter that I like to spend time with when I am home, but I suppose my comfort place is still in front of a computer doing work, regardless of whether that's in the office or in my home office. So how that will change, hopefully that sort of ramping down workload as retirement starts will be a gentle runoff period. So that I then pick up other hobbies or interests to fill that void.
Yes.
But certainly as it stands at the moment, yeah, that's something that I can see there being a big gap.
Yeah. I think it's something that not too many people give any consideration to. Certainly the friends that I've had that have retired, it's been, a sock to the chin really for some of them to go, oh, okay, so I used to be this and now I'm this. So is that my identity? And so in some ways you've actually got to move into it rather than evolve into it, I suppose, rather than it be a revolution. And with that, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, I would have thought perhaps it's a problem more unique certainly to business owners or higher level managers rather than I suppose the workers, the employees, because they a lot of them just see it as, well, I'm there to earn some money, but my time is my time. Whereas when you own a business, your time's not really your time because there's always something else that needs to be done. And so it becomes more consuming. It's a much bigger part of your life that the business is taking up.
Yeah. I mean, my mother is all of about 87, and she and her former workmates have a monthly dinner every month. She'll say that I'm going out for dinner with, my workmates. Now, they haven't been workmates for almost sort of 20, 25 years. And she never had a senior role within it, but that's their way of maintaining, I suppose, a connection and also some level of identity. So they still, I'm sure they all still get around and talk about things that happened 25 years ago, but which is quite strange. But so are you cultivating any skills or hobbies, habits, anything that will help you to make that transition when the time presents?
Other than the grey nomad idea, not really. Not really. I suppose just because that practical element of getting to the retirement, certainly, given how young my daughter is, I figure I've still got that's quite a way off.
It is.
I suppose the other thing is I've seen many people in retirement that have one idea when it starts, but that transitions very quickly. Either what they thought they wanted to do in retirement wasn't that, or they're just physically or mentally unable to pursue it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had friends that have said, "Oh, well, I'm playing golf 3 days a week," and you catch up to them 6 or 8 months into retirement, and you go, well, "Are you playing much golf?" No, I'm not playing as much because I hurt my back, or I hurt my hip, or I hurt my, and then you wonder, okay, well, your primary reason for retirement was 3 days a week you were going to play golf, and now you can't physically do it. What do you do? And if you've locked yourself into that being the thing, then it must make it really difficult.
I've certainly noticed that I've got a bit more emphasis on doing some exercise. So staying more physically active. Having a very sedentary job, sitting down all day is I think makes it more difficult. But I've certainly realised that the emphasis on making sure that you are more mobile, that you are more able to pursue things in retirement, is certainly important, and something that need to continue all the way through. Certainly the next even 20 years before I get to that retirement phase.
So I'm assuming that with your business, you've got staff that are varying stages of the retirement pathway, from those that have just hopped on the conveyor belt, if you like, but aren't particularly aware of it. If you were able to, what advice would you give them, the ones that are just starting out?
To start planning as early as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly from a financial point of view.
Yeah.
I think when you're in your 20s, you think that money will never end, and I think because the job market has changed so much, certainly post-COVID, wages seem to have skyrocketed. People come out of university and earn massive wages, and so they think that's going to continue indefinitely.
Yeah.
And therefore spend. They just spend. They don't see the benefits of actually putting some aside for a rainy day or for that eventual retirement.
Yeah, I must admit, when I first started working very, very long time ago, I enjoyed the first 12 months particularly because it was the first time that I'd earned an income, and I thought, how good was that? So if you'd been trying to talk to me back then about retirement pathway, or if I'd been trying to talk to my younger self, I wouldn't have listened much for the first 12 months, I don't think, because that's further down the path. You don't have to worry too much about that.
And I've got a range of, as you said, ages of staff in my office, and even those that are already well into their 30s, some of them place absolutely no emphasis on saving any money or their future. It's all about the now, and enjoying life.
Yeah. Well, I've got 4 adult children, and they all got the money talk from their father as soon as they started employment. And all 4 of them, I think, just they looked at me because they were watching my lips move, and so when my lips stopped moving, they thought, "Oh, good, that's finished."
You can get it out of there,
And so they're now starting to crystallize their thinking, and it wasn't all that long ago. One of my daughters had a go at me as to, why didn't you force me to listen to you back then? And I said, well, you weren't ready for it. So it is hard, but you can see that. Yeah, I agree. The earlier you start, the greater options you have further down the track, I suppose. Is there anything that you do differently? If you were if you were just starting your employment out, are there any actions that you do differently?
I think one of my biggest regrets was not taking a bit of time between finishing high school and going into study, and I think it's probably a regret a lot of people experience. But once you're in a career, it's very difficult to take a break and just walk away from it. Certainly, once you've got commitments, family commitments, mortgages, all the works.
Yes.
You can't just say, "Oh, well, I'm going to pop off overseas for 12 months, see you all later." Whereas that sort of, a lot of people take a gap year, and I think that's probably my biggest. I wouldn't say regret, but something I wish I had done.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly wish I had done. How that ties in to the decisions I've made from since then, I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
I think you've got to accept that there'll be decisions made that won't quite work.
Absolutely.
And that's all part of it.
And I remember back in university days, a friend and I thought, we can do the stock market.
Yes.
So we each took, I think, a couple of $1,000s at the time and threw it on some long shot shares and managed to lose all of it successfully. And that was the end of the early days investing. Whereas we had a friend going through university, he decided to put some money into a house early on. And by the time we'd finished uni, he already doubled his money. So, it's...
Yeah, if onlys.
If onlys, yeah, exactly right.
The final question I sort of want to get to, it's a bit lighthearted, but and I did pre-warn you about it. Yes. So when I sold my business back in 2022, and because my hair's grey, everyone assumed that I was retiring. But I chose to keep my radar on and just say yes to more things than not. And I was listening to a Colin Hay playlist, and on came this song, Waiting for My Real Life to Return to Begin. And so that then became my song for the now, So you've had enough time to have a bit of a think about it. Have you got a song that resonates for you at the moment?
I don't, Craig. The only one that came to mind was Stairway to Heaven. So I suppose it's got that very similar theme.
Bit dramatic, though, don't
a
you
little
think?
bit dramatic, yeah, a little bit dramatic, but yeah, certainly moving towards something, I suppose, more wholesome, or yeah.
Excellent. Oh, well, if you do think of it, you know how to get in touch.
I can certainly come back to you on that. Yeah,
excellent.
Absolutely.
Well, look, thanks for participating in the podcast today. It's been great to be able to find out where you're at in terms of your retirement pathway, and some of the things that you've learnt along the way have been great, and hopefully people listening to or watching this will resonate with them in some way. For those that have been listening or watching, if you'd like to find out a little bit more about what it is that I do, by all means, please visit the RDT website, which is arditi.com.au, and have a look. But until next time, thanks again.